If one of your goals for this year is spending less money on yarn, then let's sit down and chat because I have got my top tips ready to go. If you know me, you probably know how important it is that I think everyone really stays within their allotted yarn budget. And even though that's different for everybody, I think it's super important that we don't get, like overly caught up in just buying to buy. I have nothing wrong with buying yarn. I absolutely love it. But in some cases, we really do need to kind of rein it in. So let's sit down and talk about a couple of the best ways I think that you can save money on yarn this year. The very first tip I have is going to be to narrow down and find out what your preferences are. So this step could even take a whole year. You might not even be able to get into the other steps, but I think that one of the biggest mistakes that I made, and what did end up costing me money, even though I bought all my yarn on sale, I think one of the biggest mistakes I made was trying to buy yarn and get a yarn stash with a variety of things. So let me give you an example. I thought oh, I need some bright colors of acrylic in case I'm making stuff for kids. There's no little kids in my life. I literally have no little kids to make things for. I have adults, there's some teenagers, there's some 20-somethings for sure. But I thought I needed a healthy yarn stash, meaning the equivalent of a balanced diet. I thought, okay, I need a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this, and it'll be well-rounded and I'll have every little bit of everything I need. And that was a huge mistake. In the end, I have been able to gift a lot of that yarn to my friends' granddaughters who have learned to crochet. One of them's even learning to knit. So it's just definitely getting use, and I'm super, super happy about being able to, give these teenagers access to yarn. I mean, they're teenagers. They don't have a ton of money. So it's great to be able to help them out. But that's still money that ended up leaving my yarn stash and didn't end up in a project that I love. So my number one piece of advice for anyone who currently doesn't have a yarn stash and or maybe just kind of just starting out or whatever is really experiment and find out what type of yarns you love. My taste in yarn has really evolved and changed based on trying some different projects out and different weights of yarn. And I'm not saying that anything is particularly better or worse. It all depends on what type of projects you enjoy doing. So figure that out. I would encourage you to not buy a ton of yarn, kind of take it project by project for a little while and really find out what you like. Also challenge yourself a little bit. I know that's something that is easy for me to not do, is to not challenge myself. And had I have not done that, I really wouldn't have got into the fingering away yarns that I love so much. So lesson learned for me there. But yeah, just kind of take your time at first if you don't currently have a yarn stash and go kind of project by project or maybe 2 projects or whatever and figure out what type of things you like making and what type of yarn works best for those projects, and also who the recipient of those projects is going to be. And I think in the long run, you will end up saving a lot more money by avoiding the number one mistake that I made. So if you've been at this for a while and you've already got a bunch of yarn, what I would encourage you to do is sit down with a pen and paper, or if it's on your phone or whatever you prefer to use, but really spend a little bit of time and just jot down what your favorite projects have been. What your favorite yarns were for all of that. So kind of refresh in your mind a little bit about what you really love working with. And if you've got that stash, what I would encourage you to do at this point is to, I know this kind of sounds like torture, it sounds like torture to me. I know there are super organized people who this sounds like a dream. But I'm going to say, go ahead and give yourself a little bit of a yarn inventory and see what you've got. See what falls into those categories. That will definitely save you money, because if you find 25 skeins of yarn that are already exactly the type of yarn you love, bring those to the front. Put them in your used first bin. Start using them. Don't go shopping. You have already saved yourself money right there from the beginning. So inventory that yarn and then shop from your stash. And if you don't know what a used first bin is, I will go ahead and link a video I did a while back when my used first bin was much smaller than it currently is. I started out with a little basket about this size, and now I have a big old tote because I really went through with a critical eye through my yarn stash and picked out the yarns that I absolutely loved and that really spoke to me and the ones that brought me the most joy. And I just set it out here. There's a bed right over here in my guest room, and it's a clear tote. So when I walk in this room, I can see yarn I love. That definitely helps keep me from wanting to do any shopping. Now, if you're in a spot where you are still actively buying yarn, like a lot of us are, I do have a couple tips for you as well. So the first one, after you have narrowed down your favorite fiber to work with and your favorite weight of yarn, is going to be to figure out what those average prices are, because you can't save money unless you know what regular prices are. I know I talk all the time about it's the same as your food pantry, but it really is. If you are buying yarn for projects and you're having that on hand, it's like going to the grocery store. You need to know what the regular price is. And that's what's going to tell you what a good sale price is. I am in no way knocking Joann's, because I do love Joann. And they're one of the few retailers around me that I can actually go to, and it's a yarn store. So like I said, I love Joann. But I have seen where they've had I'm just using Big Twist Value as an example, but they've had Big Twist Value on sale, and it has legit been 11 cents cheaper than the regular price. Now, to me, that is not really much of a sale. It's not really even gonna cover the amount of tax on it, so that's pretty much just irrelevant. So learn what those average prices are, and really take into account as well. I think this is where fiber content and knowing what type of fiber you like really makes a big difference, because it is easy to get fooled and tricked. There is a difference between acrylic and premium acrylic. There is a difference between low pill acrylic and acrylic. When you're looking at blends, is it an acrylic cotton blend? Is it an acrylic wool blend? There's all sorts of factors, not even getting into the different types of wool that there are. That stuff makes a big difference. So, you don't want to be in an apples to oranges type of situation where you are comparing things that just really aren't relevant. I've really come to realize that I think my favorite fiber is alpaca. I ended up the other day, I happened to be in a town that had a really great thrift store, and I went in, and there really wasn't much of anything for yarn. My biggest score there was once it was there was one hank of Malabrego, which I totally scooped up because it was Malabrego for $2. So nothing like that, but there was a small skein of alpaca, and it was just natural alpaca, the dark chocolatey brown, which is a color I love. But when I picked it up, it was just that silky smooth feeling. It was 100% alpaca. It wasn't a blend with anything. And I'm I have worked with alpaca kind of here and there. I've worked with it in blends where, similar to the Lion Brand Touch of Alpaca. I know Hobby Lobby has had or has one as well. I can't remember what that's called, where it's 10% alpaca and the rest of it is acrylic. And, it's okay. It's nice. But that 100% alpaca It really is my favorite. I just love how like buttery it is. While it is not in my budget to use alpaca for every project, I have kind of decided I think I'm going to really work at, if I am making a yarn purchase, for example, I got gifted for Christmas a 75-pound gift certificate to the Wool Warehouse. It is meant for me to buy yarn with. That was the sole purpose of it, and certainly not meant for me to feel bad about spending money on. Like, I'm supposed to spend this money on yarn that I love. And I've already been over the website quite a bit, really looking and checking things out, seeing what they have on there, and I'm going to delegate as much of that as I can to buying alpaca. And I'm going to use the Wool Warehouse as another example here, because I absolutely love the Wool Warehouse, and I don't have an affiliate or anything like that. I just genuinely love it for a bunch of different reasons, and maybe I will end up doing a video just on why I love it so much at some point in time. But I know that on there are quite a few brands that have alpaca yarn. There is like a house brand from Wool Warehouse. They have Rowan that has it. They have Drops that have it. Off the top of my head, I am kind of blanking out and can't come up with any more, but I know whilst looking on there, I have found multiple types of alpaca, and a lot of those yarns, it's either, it's 100% or it's a mix. So I know that there's a lot of choices on there for what I'm looking for. And what I also know about the Wool Warehouse is that Drops yarn goes on sale on Wool Warehouse very frequently. So I was super tempted right after Christmas to get on there and just blow through my 75-pound gift card just immediately. But Drops wasn't on sale then. So I'm going to hold out a bit longer because I know that it is routinely on sale. And they generally, on that website, what I have learned from basically stalking the website, is that it's not like the entire Drops brand will go on sale. They will have, like particular lines in there go on sale. And I don't know enough to know what the exact sales cycle is, but I do know that if I wait, I am pretty sure that that Drops, and hopefully the Drops with alpaca, will come on sale. If you're not familiar with the term sales cycle, grocery stores have them, but I think a really great example would be how the sales cycle at Hobby Lobby is, just because it's probably the most simple and straightforward. So pretty much every other week at the Hobby Lobby stores, they have yarn on sale. And since most of it is private labeled, it's not like at Joann where it's, it could be like Bernat or Red Heart or just varying. It's like literally all their yarn is on sale for 30% off, regardless of what kind it is. And then on the opposing week, they have fabric on sale. So if you show up in a Hobby Lobby and fabric is on sale, you're not going to find yarn. You go back the next week to buy the yarn. So that's what a sales cycle is. And I think it's important to pay attention. And in, what do I want to say? If you zoom back just a little bit and not looking at it so like microscopically like that, but like I know like there are certain times like Nitpicks, which is one of my other favorites, once a year they have an awesome sale where it's like $2, $4, $6 balls of yarn. So if I know that's something that will come up during the year, I can be watching for that. And it is great to keep some notes so that if you have partaken in a particular sale when it would come up. A little tip could be, if you have a favorite YouTuber, go back through their videos and look and see, like if this particular person shops at a certain store that you also love, look back and see if they're having hauls that coincide with certain sales and jot that down so you know when to look for it. I know I'm using Hobby Lobby here as an example again, but generally speaking, every June they mark down a lot of their like yarns they're discontinuing. So like every June, and it's a little bit different per store and all that. There's all sorts of things that they do differently. But, you know, it seems to be every June, boom, there's their discontinued sale. And then in September, they have a die lot sale. So that's just something where, you know, if you like shopping at that store, you know, like, okay, those are great times to hit it up. And a lot of YouTubers have their Hobby Lobby annual sales on their channels. So definitely something to go back and look at. Like if you do, like, you know, say it's Nitpicks or Premiere or Lion Brand or whatever, if, you know, they're having hauls to coincide with these sales, check it out, go back in time, make a note so that you can plan ahead for that. And since we're talking about planning ahead, this next one, I want to call it like strategy versus impulsivity. So what I mean by that is I really think it's a good idea if you're wanting to spend less on yarn this year to set a budget for yourself and really stick to it. You know, don't get distracted by what you see people on YouTube or different emails and all that stuff. You know, don't get distracted and act impulsively. Like really have a strategy. Be like, okay, I am setting aside this much money every month, and I know Nitpick sale is going to be coming around, so I don't have to buy $25 in yarn every month, but I'm setting this aside so that when this sale comes up, I might have $100, you know, things like that. Like be strategic, use strategy, and use a little bit of restraint, and yeah, just try to avoid being impulsive. And, you know, am I perfect? Absolutely not. Nobody is, but it's really something we can work at. And one final idea that has really worked for me is to purchase yarns in a color scheme. And I have done a few videos kind of about that. And I think it's kind of funny because I don't know if it's the way that I'm like packaging the video, like the title and the thumbnail and everything, or if it's just not interesting, but I will be honest, those videos I've done on a color scheme have not really done super well. So I don't know if it's just boring or people just are not interested, but it really has saved me money. So I have really kind of come to terms with the fact that I like certain colors and I like using them. Like it brings me joy to look at them while I'm working with them. And it's stuff, since I do make a lot of wearables for myself, I want it to be able to coordinate with my different clothing and things like that, so that I can, you know, I don't just have like a hat that I can only wear with one thing. Like I like to be able to mix and match. So in that aspect, it saves me money because, you know, I don't have to have 20 different hats. You know, if one hat will go with 5 different outfits, then I could have like 4 hats to go with, you know, 20 different things, if that makes sense. So that is one way that shopping in a color scheme saves me money. But the other is that I'm actually able to mix and match things a little bit better. And this comes into play if you are getting very similar types of fibers and you are drawn in using the same types of fibers. You know, I'm not gonna mix and match an acrylic 4-way with a wool fingering weight. Like that's not gonna fly. But you know, if you're keeping them in the same fiber family and all that, and you're using the same color scheme, there's a far greater chance that if you need to grab something out of your stash to use with something, like there's just more odds that it's gonna work and you won't have to go out and buy more yarn. A few quick tips if you're just looking to get yarn for cheaper is going to be to obviously shop your clearance sections, but make sure if you do that you're actually buying enough of that yarn to be able to complete a project. It won't save you money if you have 2 small skeins and you can't actually do anything with it. So think ahead, make sure you buy enough of that clearance yarn to make it worthwhile. Check discount stores. I wish I had one around here, but check out like a store like Ollie's or something like that, where it is probably going to be yarn that's discontinued, but again, you might be able to get a great price on it. If you have friends that are also into yarn and or knitters or crocheters, or you have family members, ask around, see if anybody wants to do a yarn swap or a yarn trade. I love going to estate sales. Little off topic, but I love mid-century like furniture and stuff like that. So for me, I love going to estate sales because I just love seeing different, like I love seeing the houses and seeing how they're decorated and stuff like that. And I love finding like really great, like 50s and like 50s to 70s is kind of my key area. But I love going and trying to find pieces to bring into my home. But while I'm there, I am always checking around to see if there's like a little craft section and see if the people having the sale did have anything there. I have seen, I don't know how many multiple times at different sales, not a huge section, but they might have like a stash of fabric or, like buttons, or I have found bags of yarn. It's just a great place. Like, I don't think it's going to be it's never a guaranteed thing, but if you're already there, check it out. Same way with, we call them garage sales here, yard sales, rummage sales, check those out. I personally don't chase around every garage sale that's advertised, but in my area, some of the towns around here will do citywide garage sales, and that can be great if you're just, like me and a girlfriend went and just bummed around. We got coffee, we hit up a bunch of sales, and just made like a fun, entertaining day of it. So something like that. And I had stumbled upon one where there was like an entire table full of latch hook kits and cross stitch, and she had bins of yarn, and the yarn was like, she had them in bins of like $1, $2, $3. And I just dug and dug, and I didn't get a ton, but it is a great place to save. Of course, someplace like Facebook Marketplace, I think you have a better chance of getting cheap yarn if you live like probably in a bigger area than I do. I don't see a lot of that advertised in my area, and sometimes some of it is outrageous. Like when I see a tote and they're like $100, and I look and like a lot of it is Super Saver, and it's like older Super Saver. So, I mean, that one is definitely a hit or miss. But of course you can check, Etsy, places like that where people could be reselling it. And another way is, I know this sounds crazy, but I wear a lot of crochet. I guess side note, if you are interested in this beanie, I will put a link down in the description box or up here of like my 3 favorite beanie patterns. And then I will also put a link in for this yarn, for a video that's all about this yarn. But I wear a lot of crochet, and I'm a receptionist and people ask me about it, a lot because they see me wearing my hats at work and stuff like that. And I have had people give me nice yarn. I had a bunch of yarn that was gifted to me, and it was like wools, it was fingering weight, some was lace weight. Like, I got some great yarns from somebody who was just cleaning out her stash and didn't want it anymore. And she knew I would use it and wear it. So, just something to think about. Like, just by the act of wearing it and letting people know, sometimes you happen to walk into a windfall of yarn. Not always, not very often, but it is one way to, you might be able to get cheap yarn, because it has happened to me. If you are not on a budget right now, that is perfectly fine. I am not in any way saying you have to be, but I am putting myself on a self-imposed budget, and there is no shame in that if you are also wanting to be on a budget. So I'm happy to be your friend, your little budgeting friend, and I just want to help you if you also want to save money this year on some yarns. if you are watching this video when it comes out, I hope that you will join me on this coming Saturday morning on January 18th, and it will be at 10 Central Time, and I will be having a live, and it is with one of my yarn besties, Sweet Pieces Inspirations. We are celebrating a 1-year anniversary of doing our Saturday morning yarn chat, so it is going to be super fun. We have some fun stuff planned, and it'll just be a great time. Like, if you are a person who watches but doesn't like like a lurker, hi, like a quiet watcher, I would love it if you would pop over to the live, say hi, let me know you're there, and we can get to know each other a little bit better. But you can also check it in the replay, but I am excited about it. It has been a lot of fun this past year doing those with Cydney, and I hope you'll join us for that too. But I look forward to it. I will talk to you soon. Bye.